This is an overview of one method for doing a draft workshop online exclusively in Sakai. This workshop is done through forums, and I've created it using the new forum option. And you can sort those by units if you'd like to, or you can use new forum to create a workshop that has different topics for each group if you'd like each group to have its own workshop topic. Otherwise, you can just create a forum for draft workshops and run each draft workshop forum as its own topic within that larger forum. Also, it's important to include the directions here in the draft workshop. So when you do that, the students are not going to be able to see those directions right when they log into the forums. So it's helpful to include this message here when you create the topic, and that way they'll be able to click on this arrow and know that they need to click on that arrow to access the rest of the directions. It's also really helpful to copy and paste these directions, both as an announcement, ideally that you email out to the students at the beginning of the class time or in advance of the class time so they know what's expected of them and for what period. Also, if anywhere else that you could link to that draft workshop. So if you use the lessons tool or if you have a Sakai page under assignments where you can include those directions, it's helpful. Some of the best practices for online learning suggest posting directions and links to assignments in multiple places. That's especially helpful for students who have not had much experience with online learning. So to create a draft workshop within a forum like this, you just click on New Topic here, just like you would create any topic in the forums. And this is where you're going to include, I just usually typically name things Unit 3 Feeder 1, Unit 3 Feeder 2, again, to have all of them in one spot. The short description is where you'll put the note that they need to click on View Full Description to see the complete directions, and then you'll put the complete directions here in description. Certainly there are other topics or posting options that you can click here. Most of these you can come back and choose later if you want to as well. And you can also edit the settings of who's going to be able to access what. This is another way to limit things by group. It's not always the most reliable, though, and can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go back to that forum that I had initially created, and I'm going to click into it. And again, here they can view the directions. In these directions, again, it's important, especially for students who have not had much experience with online learning, to break down the directions as much as possible into steps, making the deadlines and deliverables at each step as clear as possible. So you can use bold or underline to do that. This workshop is set up as one that would typically mimic what was in a class time. I've included a little bit of flexibility here for students who might not have reliable access and who may need some additional time beyond what the hour of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class would be, but you could certainly play with this end deadline as best fits your needs. Also, again, it's helpful to have them think about what's going to be due for the next class as well. So highlight a couple of things here in these directions. So one is I'm having something due at class time to sort of keep that consistency, and that's an agreed upon time for folks to post things. Make it clear that they need to post a draft before participating. Otherwise, it can be a bit of a mess and things will be uneven. Also setting up a clear parameter for how you know who is going to trade with whom. So what I suggest here is a reply in which they claim the draft. So they will look through the series of drafts here, and then they claim 2 drafts by replying, and you can tell them something funny. You can tell them to say dibs or golden chair or this one's all mine, whatever fits your personality or theirs. And make it clear how many they need to review and how many would be the maximum that should be there. And this is also why the posting before replying comes in handy. So no draft should have more than 2 reviewers. It's important to say that. I always post the draft workshop questions here in the first post so they know exactly where to look. If you'd like to do assigned trades instead of having this claim structure that I mentioned here, then you could indicate here that the first post includes both the draft workshop and the trade assignments. That is especially helpful to do trade assignments if you're doing a group draft situation. So then you're going to instruct them to answer those draft workshop questions, and be very specific as well as not only how you want the drafts posted. Can they do an attachment? Should they just copy and paste? But also how you would like those replies done and posted. So can they just put the question answers in a reply, or could they also answer the questions and comments throughout and then attach the draft? So I've given students both options here. Again, given them a very specific end date that those are due by, so other students know when they can come and look at their feedback. Also, since we're moving online and they don't have the ability to talk to each other face to face, it's important to add that interactive element. So you can see for the next class here, I've added an assignment in which they review the feedback and write a letter back to their reviewer. So basically what that review entails is where they talk about the 2 comments they found most helpful and why, their revision plan to address those comments, and also any questions that they have for their reviewers. So again, that engages with that dialogue as well, and you can remind students in an email and an announcement that they should look back at the note that they got from the person they reviewed to see if they can answer any questions. Just a quick note about the draft workshop questions themselves. As with any prompts that you give students, you of course want them to be as detailed and specific as possible, but since you won't be there to guide them necessarily in person, it's good to add even more detail if you can. So try to keep these questions limited, of course. You don't want to overwhelm them, but definitely multiple questions, making it clear that you want them to give constructive feedback by identifying issues, explaining the issues, and offering specific suggestions for improvement. If you have an idea of how long you would like a specific reply to be, you can do that and include that here. But again, as clear and step-by-step as the directions can be, helping those who may not have experience with online is very, very helpful. Also, it's going to prompt them, so even though they're not looking at each other, to give each other as detailed feedback as possible. And again, underscoring all this as much as possible in announcements and daily emails is very helpful as well. Please contact the writing program if you have any questions or need any help with setting up your own online draft workshop. Best wishes.